The consuming obsession. Steve was never the social type, preferring the digital world where he could escape from the harsh realities of life. His fixation on Angie wasn't a simple crush. It was a deep-seated obsession that gnawed at him daily. Angie embodied everything Steve desired but could never attain. Every post she made, every update she shared, was like a breadcrumb trail, leading him deeper into his unfulfilled longing. Despite knowing she was in a relationship, Steve couldn't stop himself from stalking her online, clinging to a fragile hope that one day, she might notice him as more than just a background character in her life. The message that altered fate. On a frigid, solitary night, as Steve lay in bed, fixated on Angie's latest photos, his phone buzzed with an unexpected notification. It was a message from Angie herself. His heart leapt as he opened it, only to be greeted by a simple sad face emoji. "Rob and I had a fight. Again," she wrote, followed by words that would forever change Steve's life. "I need you." Steve's pulse quickened. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the chance to be her knight in shining armor. Yet, deep down, he knew this wasn't the first time she had sought his comfort, only to discard him once things patched up with Rob. But her call was irresistible. "You know what time it is," he typed, immediately regretting the curt tone. A quick, angry emoji appeared on his screen, prompting him to type back hurriedly, "All right, I'm on my way." A cheerful smiley replaced the angry face, and Steve jumped out of bed, adrenaline coursing through him. He dressed in his best outfit, the one he'd been saving for an upcoming party, and doused himself in cologne. Grabbing his keys, he locked his apartment door behind him and headed to the staircase, filled with a mix of anticipation and dread. The descent into darkness. Steve lived on the third floor of an aging, neglected building that had long since lost its charm. The staircase was a narrow, winding passage, dimly lit and often eerily silent. As he descended, Steve's thoughts were consumed by Angie. He pictured their conversation, imagined how he would console her, perhaps even hold her if she allowed it. His mind was so preoccupied that he barely noticed the weakly flickering light on the second floor. He reached the second floor landing, then continued downward, lost in a fog of thoughts. But something was wrong. Instead of arriving at the bottom, Steve found himself standing at his own apartment door, 303. He froze in confusion. He was certain he had been going down, so how was he back at his own door? Shaking his head, Steve chalked it up to his mind playing tricks on him and turned to descend the stairs again, this time more cautiously. But the same thing happened. After what felt like an endless descent, he was once again facing his own door. The horrifying realization. Panic began to creep in. This was no trick of the mind, something was terribly wrong. Steve turned and sprinted down the stairs, leaping over steps in his desperation to escape. But no matter how fast he ran or how many steps he took, he always ended up back at the same place, his apartment door. Panting, his heart pounding in his chest, Steve realized he was trapped in some kind of nightmarish loop. He peered over the railing, staring down into the darkness below. The bottom floor seemed distant, impossibly far, like a mirage receding the closer he got. Determined to break free, Steve took slow, deliberate steps, counting each one. He reached the second floor landing, the flickering bulb above casting eerie, shifting shadows on the walls. As he turned to continue downward, his heart froze. A figure was sitting on the stairs below. The unseen presence. The figure was cloaked in shadows, its features obscured, save for its eyes, glowing, piercing white eyes that locked onto Steve. Gasping, he instinctively pulled out his phone, its screen casting a faint light into the darkness. But the figure was gone. Steve's heart raced. He was certain he had seen something, or someone, sitting there. Yet the staircase was now empty, the only sound his own ragged breathing. Unease gnawed at him, but he pushed it aside, convincing himself it was just his imagination playing tricks. With renewed determination, he resumed his descent. But each step felt heavier, as if the air itself was thickening, pressing down on him. Reaching the second floor, Steve was momentarily relieved to see the number 203 instead of his own door. Then he saw it again, the figure, sitting a few steps below, its eyes glowing brighter, more menacing. It wasn't just sitting this time, it was facing him, its gaze fixed on his. A low, guttural growl filled the stairwell, sending a chill down Steve's spine. He froze, paralyzed by fear. His hands shook as he fumbled for his phone, but it slipped from his grasp, tumbling down the stairs. The screen cracked on impact, the light flickering out. The growling intensified, echoing through the stairwell as the figure began to rise. Steve's legs turned to jelly as he bolted up the stairs, not daring to look back. He could hear it behind him, its footsteps closing in with every step. The desperate escape. Steve reached his apartment door, his hands trembling violently as he struggled to unlock it. The growl was now a deafening roar, and he could feel the presence right behind him. Finally, the key slid into place, and he flung the door open, throwing himself inside and slamming it shut. He locked the door, pressing his ear against it, listening. The stairwell was silent, disturbingly so. But Steve knew better than to trust the quiet. He backed away, eyes darting around the room, half expecting the figure to burst through the walls. His phone lay shattered on the floor. As he reached for it, the phone suddenly rang, the screen lighting up with Angie's name. Steve's heart raced. He answered with trembling hands. "Angie? Is that you?" A static-filled growl was the only reply, sending a wave of dread through Steve. It was the same growl he had heard in the stairwell, now coming from Angie's end. "Angie? What's happening?" he whispered, his voice breaking, but the growl only grew louder, more menacing. Terrified, Steve dropped the phone and stumbled back onto his bed, pulling the blanket over his head as if it could protect him from the horror unfolding around him. His mind raced, trying to piece together the nightmare he was trapped in. The final confrontation. Steve lay trembling beneath the blanket, his breath coming in shallow gasps. He could sense a dark presence in the room, an unseen force that watched him, waiting. Slowly, he peeked out, scanning the room. His phone was no longer on the floor but on the pillow beside him, as if placed there by someone, or something. The phone rang again. This time, Steve didn't dare to answer. He stared at it, too terrified to move. The ringing stopped, leaving a suffocating silence in its wake. Steve's eyes darted around, his heart thudding in his chest. Then he saw it, the figure standing at the foot of his bed, its glowing white eyes fixed on him. Before he could react, a cold, clammy hand shot out from the darkness, gripping his wrist with unnatural strength. The growl was now an unbearable roar, filling his mind, drowning out all thought. Steve tried to scream, but no sound escaped his lips. The figure loomed over him, its breath hot and rancid. Its mouth twisted into a grotesque grin, revealing sharp, glistening teeth. The last thing Steve saw before the darkness consumed him was the figure lunging at him, its eyes blazing with unholy fire, its mouth opening wide in a silent scream. Epilogue: The unanswered call. The following morning, Angie tried calling Steve, but there was no response. She assumed he was still asleep and would call her back later. As the day dragged on without a word from him, her worry grew. By evening, she decided to visit him, fearing he might be ill or worse. But when she arrived at his apartment, the door was locked, and there was no sign of Steve. Later that day, the police found his body lying on the bed, his phone still clutched in his hand. The cause of death remained a mystery, with only one chilling detail. The phone screen displayed an unanswered call from Angie, time-stamped moments before his death. Jenny's bedroom. Early morning light seeps through the curtains, casting a soft glow across the room. Jenny's phone buzzes persistently on the nightstand. Still half asleep, she reaches for it, her thumb sluggishly swiping across the screen. My life is a relentless stream of notifications, updates, and videos. It's as if the world outside has ceased to exist. Everything I need is contained within this tiny screen. Jenny, illuminated by the phone's eerie glow, scrolling intently. Her face is a blend of fascination and obsession. The gym. Evening. The space is nearly deserted, punctuated only by the occasional clink of weights and scattered dumbbells. The camera zeroes in on Jenny, deeply engrossed in her phone during a break between sets. Even at the gym, I'm tethered to my digital world. It's my ritual. Between sets, I check my messages, watch videos, and lose myself in cyberspace. Jenny in the yoga area, surrounded by large mirrors. The gym is silent, the clock on the wall indicating it's quite late. Jenny's attention is fixed on a video titled, "You," just received in her messenger inbox. The video was an enigma. I needed to watch it. She taps on the video. The screen displays a girl standing in the center of a room, clutching a phone. The room bears a striking resemblance to the one Jenny is in. The realization. Jenny's face, eyes widening in shock. The camera pans to the mirror, revealing Jenny's reflection. It's me. The room, it's identical. It's happening live. Jenny spins around, her gaze frantic as she scans the room. The gym lights flicker unsettlingly. She mimics the movement seen in the video with her own hand. The camera captures the empty gym and mirrors, showing only Jenny's reflection. A moment of chilling stillness. I couldn't find a hidden camera. I had been coming here for years, there shouldn't be anything concealed. Jenny reassures herself, watching the video's timer, 2 minutes remaining. The company. The video. A little girl dressed in white appears at the door of the room. I turned around, but there was no one there. The video, it revealed something I couldn't see. Jenny's head jerks toward the door. The room is empty. The video. The little girl is now inside the room, standing ominously close to Jenny. The girl, she was drawing closer. My heart pounded. Jenny recoils in terror, stumbling and dropping her phone. It bounces and lands on the floor. The video. Jenny looks at her phone, and the little girl is now directly behind her. I was frozen in fear. I could see the girl behind me, but I was paralyzed. Jenny snatches up the phone and rushes towards the door. Her breathing is frantic, her hands trembling. Jenny's panicked face as she reaches for the door handle. Suddenly, she is lifted into the air by an unseen force. Something was holding me back. I felt myself being lifted, the phone slipping from my fingers. The phone crashes to the floor, capturing the horrifying scene. Jenny's screams are distorted and muffled by the camera's audio. The video showing Jenny's contorted body crashing to the ground, blood erupting from her joints in a grotesque display. Twisted beyond recognition, my existence ended. The phone, it recorded every moment. The gym, now eerily silent and vacant. The phone lies abandoned on the floor, its screen displaying the final, chilling moments. I thought I could escape the world I had created for myself. But in the end, the world I ignored, consumed me. Beware the digital world. It might just reflect your worst fears. The faint sound of a phone notification buzzes softly in the background. Eight is a chilling narrative that emerged from a haunting journey, an eerie escapade through a remote, isolated region that set the stage for spine-tingling events. This tale, part of our latest fiction anthology, draws heavily from real-life experiences to amplify its unsettling atmosphere. As you delve into 8, prepare yourself for a gripping odyssey that blurs the lines between reality and fiction in a profoundly disturbing manner. The journey begins. How much farther? Jane's frustration was evident as she glared at her husband, her patience nearing its limit. They had been driving for what felt like an eternity, and the promise of a pleasant getaway seemed increasingly elusive. "We're almost there." Harry's voice was calm but carried a hint of uncertainty. He peered through the windshield, straining his eyes against the encroaching darkness. The rain pounded relentlessly against the windshield, the wipers struggling to keep pace. They were deep in the woods now, with daylight rapidly fading. "Didn't the map say we had 8 more kilometers to go?" "It feels like we've driven at least 10, Jane remarked, her tone growing more irritable. Harry chose to remain silent, though he was equally troubled by the discrepancy. The ominous silence of the woods, coupled with the unending rain, only heightened his mounting anxiety. "I don't like this place. It gives me the creeps," Jane said, pulling her blanket tighter around herself. "Anything could happen here, and no one would know. I just hope we don't have to drive back in the dark." "That would be insane." Noticing her discomfort, Harry offered, "Do you want me to turn off the AC?" "No, it's better this way," Jane replied with a forced smile, trying to hide her unease. Arrival at Adventure X. At last, they saw the sign for Adventure X, their destination. Harry sighed in relief, while Jane's reaction was far from enthusiastic. "Yay," she said sarcastically, clearly unimpressed. As they entered the area, Harry noted that it was quieter than he remembered. The once lively spot now seemed almost deserted. The season might have played a role, but there were also rumors about the place he had previously dismissed. However, the quietness was exactly what he sought. He fondly recalled his previous visit 2 years ago, before he met Jane, when he had enjoyed the serene beauty of the mountains and the peaceful ambiance. Harry gazed at the mountain silhouettes through the rain, hoping they remained unchanged by the passage of time. Checking in. At the reception, Harry confirmed their booking and learned about the evening's plans, a bonfire followed by dinner in a communal dining area. The receptionist mentioned that due to the rain, the tents had been set up indoors. "Since it's raining outside, we've arranged for the tents to be indoors." "It should be the same," the receptionist explained. Harry glanced at him and replied, "It wouldn't be the same." Jane, shivering from the dampness, wanted to change immediately. The receptionist directed them to their tented room, which was adjacent to the reception area. The room contained 2 adjoining tents, equipped with fans, lights, and all the essentials for their stay. After changing into more comfortable clothes, they set out to find the toilet, which was to their left. Harry was dismayed by the lack of privacy. The communal bathroom was open to everyone, including the reception staff and other guests. As Harry emerged from the bathroom, Jane called out, "Come on. Let's head to the bonfire." The bonfire. They hurried to the bonfire area, still enduring the relentless rain. The bonfire was sheltered under a large shed with benches arranged around it. An attendant was busy adding sticks to the fire, preparing for the evening's gathering. Soon, another family joined them, a middle-aged man, his teenage child, and his quiet wife, all drenched from the rain. They huddled close to the fire, trying to dry off. "We should have come during the winter," the man said loudly. "It used to be more enjoyable back then. Nights weren't this gloomy." Harry nodded in agreement. "Exactly. I was just telling Jane how much I used to enjoy it." Jane forced a smile. "No, it's great. I'm really impressed." The man continued, "The rain has ruined the fun. We should have planned this trip better." Harry agreed, "You're right." After some conversation, the man introduced himself as Dr. Isaac Jenkins. Harry and Jane introduced themselves in return. They learned that they were the only two families staying that night. Their conversation eventually faded into murmurs in the background. The horror story. In an attempt to lighten the mood, Jane asked, "Do you know any horror stories?" Dr. Isaac hesitated. "Oh no. Jane, why do you always ask about horror?" "It's all right," Harry said. "She loves these stories and then keeps me up all night. Please, don't tell one if you can help it." Jane defended herself. "Oh, come on. I promise I won't be scared." Isaac looked at his family and then said, "I can tell you a story about this place if you want." Jane's eyes widened with curiosity. Harry wondered if Isaac was about to reveal the rumors he had heard. "Do you want to know why people have stopped coming here?" Isaac began. His wife interjected, "Oh, honey. Don't encourage this nonsense." Isaac, undeterred, continued, "The girl wants a story." Jane leaned in, eager to hear. "What happened? Please tell me." Isaac's expression grew serious. "There was a mass murder here last year. 8 people were killed by a psychopath who lured them into the woods one by one. He tortured them and killed them as they screamed for help under the stars. By the time the authorities arrived, it was too late." Jane's hands covered her mouth in horror. 8 murders? Harry, who had heard the rumors, was shocked to hear them confirmed. Isaac added, "The killer was eventually caught, but the damage he caused lingers. People now claim to see the ghosts of those who died here. They come out seeking solace, haunting the ridges and hills." Isaac ended with a playful, "Boo," but his expression remained grave. Dinner and disquiet. Jane felt a lump in her throat. Isaac's intense recounting left her terrified. The dinner bell rang, its clanging echoing through the night. Isaac and his family left, and Harry asked a nervous Jane, "Are you all right?" Jane snapped, "I can't believe you brought us to a place with such a horrifying history." 8 murders. Harry shrugged, "Every place has a history. Our home was once a graveyard, and civilizations are buried beneath us. Even dinosaurs roamed here." Jane was furious. "Save me the philosophical nonsense. 8 people died here less than a year ago." They walked to the dining area where Isaac and his family were already eating. Harry tried to lighten the mood with a joke about the chicken on the table, but Jane was unamused. The food was good, but Harry's fatigue made him eager to retire for the night. Retreat to the room. Returning to their room, Jane was still upset. She chose to sleep alone in her tent, even though it was spacious enough for 2. As Harry snored, Jane lay awake, her mind racing. The floorboards creaked with every step outside, making her nervous. The constant thumping sounded like footsteps, echoing through the empty hall. Jane's anxiety grew as she faced the dimly lit interior. The tent felt stifling despite the fans. She dreaded the moment she would need to use the bathroom, but it became unavoidable. The loo. Desperate, Jane woke Harry, who was sluggish and groggy. "Harry, wake up. I need to use the loo." Harry grumbled and reluctantly followed her. The noise had stopped, but the darkness outside was unsettling. The light from their room cast eerie shadows, and Jane saw a figure sitting in the reception area, its back turned. Harry reassured her, standing by the door while she hurried to the toilet. When she returned, she found Harry slumped against the door, barely awake. Jane noticed the chair where she had seen the figure was now empty. "Where did he go?" Jane asked, alarmed. Harry, confused, replied, "Who?" Jane insisted, "The man who was sitting in the chair." Harry shrugged. "I didn't see anyone." Unsettling revelations. Jane, terrified, decided to sleep in Harry's tent. She squeezed into the tight space beside him as the noise started again. It sounded like someone running or falling. "Do you hear that?" Jane asked, her voice trembling. Harry, half asleep, dismissed it. "Just sleep. We need to get up early for trekking." Despite Harry's reassurances, Jane was on edge. Her mind raced, and she struggled to find rest. Exhaustion began to take over as Harry's steady snoring created a monotonous rhythm. The stranger. In the midst of her restless state, Jane's eyes shot open to see a figure standing at the tent entrance. She screamed, waking Harry. "What? What happened?" Harry asked, alarmed. "There was a man standing right there," Jane cried. Harry, skeptical, checked outside and found nothing. "There's no one here," he said, turning on the lights. As he opened the door, they saw a shadowy figure standing in the darkness. Indian folklore is brimming with captivating and eerie tales of ghosts and spirits, each deeply woven into the cultural tapestry. Among these haunting narratives, one story stands out for its chilling impact: The Woman in White. While some may brush these tales aside as mere superstitions, there are accounts that continue to evoke profound fear and intrigue. This particular story, which was shared with me many years ago, has lingered in my memory, serving as a stark reminder of the shadows that loom just beyond the edge of our understanding. Tonight, as the darkness envelops the world around us, we invite you to immerse yourself in this spine-chilling story. Let us explore the haunting tale that has troubled my thoughts and haunted the imaginations of countless others. The night was shrouded in an oppressive gloom, a darkness so thick it seemed to wrap itself around the landscape like a heavy blanket. Fireflies flickered intermittently, their tiny lights almost as if they were quivering in the presence of something unseen. The rhythmic chirping of crickets filled the air with a haunting regularity, resembling the heartbeat of a night that seemed too still. The moon hung low, casting an eerie, silvery glow over the winding path, making it both enchanting and unsettling. Two brothers, Chiru and Diru, were journeying home, their footsteps echoing softly on the solitary, moonlit trail. The village, normally alive with activity, had fallen into an unnatural silence, its usual warmth replaced by a chilling, ghostly quiet. The path they traveled stretched endlessly through dense woods and open fields, a route they knew well, but on this night, it seemed interminable. Chiru, the younger of the two, found a measure of comfort in his elder brother's presence, which made the daunting walk a little less frightening. Lost in conversation, the brothers recounted their day's adventures with animated laughter and excitement. Their playful banter about Gilladanda, a traditional game, briefly lifted their spirits. However, as they walked, the path seemed to elongate, and their mirth faded, overshadowed by the encroaching darkness. The mysterious encounter. As they rounded a bend in the path, a figure emerged from the mist that had settled over the trail. At first, it was nothing more than a vague silhouette against the moonlit backdrop. As they approached, the figure took form, a woman clad in a flowing white sari. Her appearance was almost spectral, the sari billowing around her as though caught in an invisible breeze. The brothers halted, their conversation dying abruptly. While it was not unusual to see villagers at odd hours, something about this woman felt profoundly unsettling. The serene elegance of her attire seemed to contrast sharply with the oppressive silence of the night. Chiru, ever the inquisitive one, ventured to speak first. "Hello, ma'am. Are you lost?" he called out, but the woman offered no response. Instead, she continued to glide towards them, her movements eerily silent. The brothers could now feel a penetrating chill in the air, their breaths crystallizing in the frosty night. In an instant, the woman vanished from their sight, only to reappear beside Chiru. Her sudden appearance was disorienting. She was now seated on the ground, her head bowed, the white sari draped over her face. The unnerving stillness of her form, coupled with her barely audible weeping, created an atmosphere of profound unease. The terror unfolds. Chiru's heart pounded in his chest as he turned to call for Diru, only to discover that his brother had vanished. Panic surged through him as he spotted Diru in the distance, sprinting away with terror-stricken eyes. "Run!" Diru's voice cut through the night, driven by sheer fear. Chiru, overwhelmed by a cold, paralyzing dread, did not need to be told twice. He fled after his brother, his feet pounding the earth as if trying to escape the terror that pursued them. Glancing back, he saw the woman's figure still lingering on the path, her silhouette a haunting presence against the moonlit backdrop. Though her weeping grew faint, it remained a ghostly echo of their terrifying encounter. The villagers' intervention. Eventually, the brothers stumbled upon a group of villagers, their lanterns casting a warm, reassuring glow in the encroaching darkness. Diru, trembling uncontrollably, clung desperately to a woman's skirt, burying his face in her lap. His fear was palpable, his body shaking as though caught in a tempest. The woman, embodying a figure of maternal comfort, enveloped Diru in her arms, her soothing murmurs attempting to calm his panicked state. She felt the icy chill of his skin, a stark contrast to the warmth of her embrace. "What happened, child?" she inquired gently, her own concern evident in her voice. Diru could only manage a trembling shake of his head, his voice lost in the storm of his fear. The woman's comforting presence offered a small solace amidst the horror they had experienced. Chiru, though equally shaken, managed to recount their terrifying encounter to the villagers. They listened with growing solemnity. The villagers, familiar with tales of a ghostly woman in white haunting the night paths, took the brothers under their care and protection. The journey home. The villagers led Chiru and Diru home via a different route, one that avoided the haunted path. The brothers walked in somber silence, the weight of their unsettling encounter pressing heavily upon them. Each step away from the eerie path seemed to ease some of the fear that had gripped them. Upon reaching home, the warmth and light of their house felt almost overwhelmingly comforting after the night's chilling events. Yet, the memory of the woman in white lingered, a spectral reminder of the night's horrors. As they settled into their beds, the story of the woman in white became etched into their lives, a tale that would be recounted in hushed whispers, a ghostly echo of the fears that dwell in the darkness. The woman in white is more than just a ghost story. It serves as a chilling reminder of the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. As we recount this tale, let us remember that sometimes, the shadows conceal truths we are not meant to fully grasp. For Chiru and Diru, their encounter with the woman in white was a profound experience, one that would forever alter their perception of the supernatural. So, the next time you find yourself wandering a lonely path under the moonlit sky, tread carefully. The darkness may hold secrets that are waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves.